Hey you guys, so I'm Lady and today I will be talking to you all about suicide. I'm going to break the video up into different segments because it'll be easier for me to film it that way, and I think that you all can gather information, understand it better that way too. So the first thing that I'm going to talk to you all today is about some myths about suicide. Then I'm going to talk to you all about some warning signs of suicide, some statistics, and then I'll talk to you all about ways that you can cope if someone that you know has committed suicide. So I'm going to start off with the myths. So I'm going to talk to you all about the myths. And I wrote the myths down because I can't just remember them off the top of my head. I want to make sure that I don't miss any and that you all get all the information. So I'm going to be looking at my notes when I tell you all about the myths. So first I'm going to tell you all about the myths, and then I'm going to tell you how that information is false. So myth number 1. People who talk about suicide are just trying to get attention. That's false. People who die by suicide usually talk about it first. They are in pain and oftentimes reach out for help because they do not know what to do and they're beginning to lose hope. So whenever someone talks to you about feeling like they want to kill themselves or they have suicidal thoughts, you should always take it serious because they're taking it serious, and I think you should too. Myth number 2. People who talk about wanting to die by suicide do not try to kill themselves. That's a myth. People who talk about wanting to die by suicide often kill themselves. So once again, if someone is talking to you about wanting to kill themselves and they have a suicidal tendency, then you need to take it serious and try to get that person help. Myth number 3. Suicide always occurs without any warning signs. That is false. There are almost always warning signs when someone is suicidal. I'm going to go into the warning signs in my next segment, so make sure you stay tuned. Myth number 4. Once people decide to die by suicide, there is nothing you can do to stop them. That is false. Suicide can be prevented. Most people who are suicidal do not want to die, they just want to stop their pain. Myth number 5. When people become suicidal, they will always be suicidal. And that's false. Most people are suicidal for a limited period of time. However, the suicidal thoughts can reoccur if they begin to get depressed again. But they won't always be suicidal. They just need to make sure that they get help. Myth number 6. You should never ask people who are suicidal if they are thinking about suicide or if they have thought about a method. That is something you definitely want to make sure that you talk to that person about. Asking people if they are thinking about suicide does not give them the idea for suicide. And it is important to talk about suicide with people because you will learn about their mindset and their intentions. And you can possibly stop it from happening, and you will save a lot of people. Myth number 6. Young people never think about suicide. They have their entire life ahead of them. That's false. Suicide is actually the third leading cause of death between people between the ages of 15 and 24. So that's pretty young. Now I'm going to talk to you all about some warning signs of suicide. I want you all to at least remember the first one because the first one is the most important one. The number 1 sign of people who are suicidal is that that person is appearing depressed or sad most of the time. This is very important to be on the lookout for because untreated depression is the number 1 cause of suicide. And now I'm just going to go down the list of some warning signs to look out for if you suspect that someone might be suicidal. Talking or writing about death or suicide, withdrawing from family and friends, feeling hopeless or feeling helpless, feeling strong anger or rage, feeling trapped like there is no way out of a situation, experiencing dramatic mood changes, abusing alcohol or drugs, exhibiting a change in personality, acting impulsively, losing interest in most activities, experiencing change in sleeping habits, performing poorly at work or in school. This is a big one. Giving away prized possessions. That's definitely something you should be on the lookout for, because someone who is suicidal will give away their prized possessions to someone they love because they feel like they don't need them anymore because they're not planning on being here that much longer. So that's definitely a big sign to look out for. Riding a wheel, feeling excessive guilt or shame, or acting recklessly. So these are some warning signs of someone who might have suicidal tendencies or suicidal thoughts. And if you know someone who is experiencing the majority of the items on the list that I just read off to you all, you need to think about getting someone help. Now I'm going to talk to you all today about some statistics of suicide. 75% of people who attempt suicide do so because they're experiencing some type of relationship issue. Between the ages of 15 and 24, suicide is the third leading cause of death next to accidents and homicides. And interestingly, females actually attempt suicide more than males. For every 3 females that attempt suicide, only 1 male attempts suicide. The rest of the information I'm going to show you all is going to be in a chart, because I think it'll be easier for you to understand it than for me to try to read it off to you all. So I'm going to show you the chart, and then I'll come back with you all to share some ways to cope if you know someone who has died because of suicide.
uh, 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 uh. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Yeah. Uh, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Yeah. And I ain't too proud to tell you that I cry sometimes. I cry sometimes about it. And girl, I know it hurt, but if this world was perfect, then we can make it work, but I doubt it. And I ain't too proud to tell you that I cry sometimes. I cry sometimes about it. And girl,
Now I'm going to talk to you all about some ways that you can cope with the loss of someone who committed suicide. It's going to be a very touchy subject because I'm sure it will bring back a lot of emotions when you think about the person who was close to you that committed suicide. But I'm going to try to give you all some tips to make this coping process a little easier for you. Coping with the loss of a loved one who died from suicide is not easy. The pain is very intense and can come rushing back when holidays, anniversaries, and birthdays pop up. It is very important not to spend those days alone, and that you try to surround yourself with family, friends, and loved ones of the person who committed the suicide. You may choose to go out to a special place, or you may choose to stay home, but just be prepared for those strong emotions to hit you. Make sure that the person that you're choosing to spend this special day with is close to you and that they can handle your emotions when they come. It is good to express your emotions, and if you need to cry, it is good that you do so, because it's not that good if you hold these emotions in. Crying is a very important outlet for your pain. It can be kind of helpful if you go to a suicide survivor group where everyone in the group is also experiencing the loss of a loved one who committed suicide. So sometimes these groups can be helpful. You can see if it's one in your neighborhood or anything. Something that I find helpful when experiencing the death of a loved one is to talk about the good memories that you had with that loved one. So I think it's good to surround yourself around people who also knew that person, so that you all can share the good memories that you had of that person and keep their memory and love alive. It is also important that you stay away from places that bother you as this special day approaches, because your stress level is already going to be high. So you don't want to be reminded of bad memories when this special day approaches. If it is possible, maybe you might want to take off from work just so that you can, you're going to be sad, so that you spend this day thinking about the special person and try to be happy. It's a very emotional day, and it's understandable if you want to take the day off and not go into work that day. If you begin to get deeply depressed as this special day approaches, it is important that you seek help. Very important that you seek help. I actually have a national suicide prevention lifeline that I can give you all the number to. I'll put it in at the end of the video, so that if you're experiencing any type of emotional pain or suicidal thoughts as this day approaches, you can dial the lifeline, and maybe you can talk to them about the loved one that committed the suicide. And maybe it would be good for you to have someone to talk to and express your feelings about how you feel about the loved one no longer being in your life. So to sum it all up, if you are coping with the death of a loved one due to suicide, it's important that you plan for the day in advance. It's important that you don't spend that day alone. It's important that you show emotion and you express emotion, and that you try to spend that day with loved ones around you so that they can support you in this emotional time for you. So that concludes my video. If you all would like to share with me or with anyone on the page about your loss and about your coping with dealing with someone who has committed suicide, please feel free to do so, because your stories will be heard, and they might also help someone else who is dealing with a similar situation as you. So I hope this video helps you all into understanding suicide better, and most importantly, hopefully it discourages you from committing suicide yourself.